Hey guys, alright, today's video is going to be about subtraction with positive and negative fractions. As always, make sure that you write down everything you see me write down. Your objective for today, I will be able to subtract positive and negative fractions and apply the process to real life. So let's review, and this is pretty much the same as when we added fractions. We want to make sure we have a common denominator. That's the same as finding the least common multiple of the denominators. So if we had 1/2 minus 1/3, 2 and 3 are not the same. The least common multiple would be 6, so we would rewrite equivalent fractions. So 1/2 is the same as 3 over 6, and 1/3 is the same as 2 over 6. And if we were to subtract that, 3 minus 2 is 1, that would be 1/6. Remember, even with subtraction, we are only solving the numerators. Again, if you are having trouble with our common denominators, please come to tutoring. Now let's talk about the integer rules whenever we are subtracting. So let's talk about subtracting positive numbers. Well, if you see something like a positive minus a smaller positive, we've seen that for years. That's simple. 9 minus 5 is just 4. Let's say we have a positive minus a bigger positive number, such as 5 minus 9. So all we have to do is just subtract like normal, and then we just make the answer negative. So 5 minus 9, we think, well, 9 minus 5 is 4, and then we just put a negative sign in front of it. Now, if we are subtracting and there is a negative involved, that means it could be one negative, it could be two negatives, any negative that's involved with subtraction. We're not going to subtract. So if there's a negative involved, such as anything you see here, I want you to remember, we do not subtract with negatives. We add the opposite. Let me show you what that means. A 9 minus a negative 5. That would be 9 plus 5. We're going to add the opposite of a negative 5, which would be positive, and that would be 14. We have a negative minus a negative. That would be negative 9 minus a negative 5. We're going to add a positive 5, and then when we're adding, don't forget to refer to your integer rules from yesterday for addition. So I have a negative plus a positive. The difference of that is 4. Sign of the bigger number is negative. And a negative minus a positive, like negative 9 minus 5, we are going to add the opposite. So I want to add a negative 5. Adding negatives, add like normal, answer is negative. Again, if you are having trouble with this, and we're just reviewing right now, if you're still having trouble, please come to tutoring. Alright, so let's talk about how we're going to subtract our fractions. So we want to change mixed numbers to improper. We want to find the common denominator, rewrite with equivalent fractions, solve the numerator only using our integer rules, and then we'll simplify the answer, and if it's improper, we will make it a mixed number. So let's do some examples together. Alright, example 1, we have 5, 6, minus 7, 8. We don't have to change to improper, so now we're just going to find our common denominator. We have a 6, and we have an 8. The least common multiple of 6 and 8 would be 24. So I want to rewrite this with 24. So something over 24 minus something over 24. 6 times 4 is 24, so I'm going to multiply times 4 in the numerator. 5 times 4 is 20. And then 8 times 3 is 24. So we multiply the numerator times 3, and we get 21. So now we are just going to solve by only focusing on the numerator. So we know that in our answer, the denominator has to be the same. It's 24. So I am only focusing on 20 minus 21. So I have a positive minus a bigger positive. So I'm going to do normal subtraction. 21 minus 20 is 1, and then I just make the answer negative. I cannot reduce this, so we just circle or box in the answer. Alright, example 2, we have 3/10 minus a negative 1/6. We don't have to change to improper, so we move on to finding the common denominator. I have a 10 and a 6. Common denominator would be 30. So I have something over 30 minus negative something over 30. 10 times 3 is 30, so I multiply times 3 in the numerator, and that gives us 9. 6 times 5 is 30, so I multiply times 5 in the numerator, and that gives us 5. Now I only want to solve the numerator, so I know that my denominator stays 30. So I am only concerned about 9 minus a negative 5, and I'm going to rewrite that. 9 minus a negative 5. Now remember, subtracting with negatives, we don't subtract, we add the opposite. So that would be 9 plus a positive 5. And 9 plus 5 is 14. 14 over 30 can be reduced by 2. And that would be 7 over 15. And then circle or box in your answer. Alright, example 3, we have negative 1 and 1/7 minus negative 1 and 1/3. We have mixed numbers, so we have to change to improper. Again, if this is something you're having trouble with, you definitely want to come in for tutoring Tuesday, Thursdays, 4 to 5. So, with this mixed number, we know we're going to have a negative improper fraction. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. So we have negative 8 over 7 minus, we're going to have another negative improper. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So now we have a negative 8 over 7 minus negative 4 over 3. We have to find a common denominator. Between 7 and 3, that would be 21. So I'll have a negative something over 21 minus a negative something over 21. 7 times 3 is 21. So we have to solve 8 times 3 to get a numerator of 24. 3 times 7 is 21. So we multiply the numerator by 7 to get 28. Now I'm only solving the numerator, so I leave the denominator as 21. Now all I care about is negative 24 minus a negative 28, and I'm going to rewrite that up here. We do not subtract negatives. We add the opposite. That would be negative 24 plus a positive 28. A negative plus a positive. We just find the difference and take the sign of the higher number. So 28 minus 24, that is a positive 4. And then this 28 is technically the bigger number if we're just looking at the absolute value. So we know that we would have to have a positive 4 here. So that would be 4 over 21, which cannot be further reduced. We circle or box in our answer. Okay, example 4. Scott owes his brother 2 3/5 of his pizza and his friend 1 2/5. Write an expression with signs to represent the situation and solve for how much pizza Scott owes his brother and friend. Use a sign to represent how much Scott owes. Alright, so he owes his brother 2 3/5 of his pizza. If he owes that much, that means he's going to have to give away 2 3/5 of his pizzas. He would have to have more than one to give away 2. And then he owes his friend 1 2/5. Again, he owes it, so he's going to have to take away another 1 2/5 of his pizzas. So here's our expression with our signs. Now we want to solve it. So let's take our mixed numbers and change them to improper fractions. So we are going to have 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 3 is 13. It's negative, so it has to be a negative improper. So we have 13 over 5 minus 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So minus 7 over 5. Now, we happen to have common denominators, so we don't have to actually find that, and now we can just solve. Now remember, all I care about is the numerator. Denominator stays the same. And then I want to know what is negative 13 minus 7. And I'm going to rewrite that. Negative 13 minus 7. We do not subtract. If a negative is involved, we add the opposite. So that would be negative 13 plus. Now, ignore this sign here. We've changed it to an addition. This is a positive 7. So now we have to make it a negative 7. Negative 13 plus negative 7. We're adding negatives. We add like normal. Make the answer negative. 13 plus 7 is 20. Make the answer negative. So I have a negative 20 over 5. Now I can reduce that. So 5 goes into 20 4 times. And we know we have to have a negative number. So that would be negative 4. So that means Scott owes 4 pizzas because he's going to have to give away 4. But this is a word problem and I have to represent my answer as a sentence. Alright, so in a complete sentence, I would say Scott owes his brother and his friend 4 total pizzas. Alright, now it's time for you to try. So we've got some subtraction problems here, and then we have another word problem. Again, make sure your answer is in a complete sentence on your word problem. If you've had questions, make sure you've recorded them in the left columns, and don't forget to write your summary in complete sentences when you're finished. Bring your notes to class with you tomorrow, and I will see you next class day.